Asterisk asterisk. A billionaire CEO pretends to be disabled to test a poor single mom, but falls in love at first sight. Asterisk asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. In a bustling city where the rich and poor collide, Emma Baker, a single mother, faces the challenges of raising her young daughter while trying to make ends meet. Emma's life isn't easy. Every day is a struggle between paying bills, making sure her daughter is fed, and keeping a roof over their heads. She works 2 jobs, one as a waitress at a local diner and another as a cleaner at a luxury hotel, but even that barely covers the basics. One cold afternoon, Emma rushes to the diner for her shift, feeling the weight of exhaustion in her bones. Her small apartment, barely holding together, is a reminder of the hardships she faces every day. Her daughter, Lily, is the only reason she keeps going, but there are days when even the love for her little girl doesn't feel like enough to keep the world at bay. As she hurries to work, she doesn't know that her life is about to change forever. At the luxury hotel, the unexpected happens. Emma is assigned to clean a prestigious suite, but when she enters, she's startled to find a man sitting in the corner, looking out of the window. He's dressed in a sleek black suit, his face partially hidden by dark glasses, and he's using a cane to assist with his movements. He's clearly wealthy, and Emma can't help but feel out of place in the pristine room. She begins her duties quietly, trying not to draw attention to herself, but she can't shake the feeling that something is different about this man. He watches her carefully, noticing the way she moves with purpose, despite the fatigue in her eyes. She's unaware, but this man is not just a hotel guest, he's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. Nathan Reed, a successful entrepreneur, has been feeling disconnected from the world around him. His wealth has brought him everything he could ever want, but it has also made him lose touch with what truly matters. To test the kindness of people, he decides to pretend to be disabled and observe how others treat him. What Nathan doesn't expect is that Emma, despite her own struggles, shows him nothing but kindness and respect. Emma doesn't know who he is or what he's doing, but she treats him with the same compassion she gives to everyone, regardless of their social status. She helps him with small tasks, and they share a few polite words. To Nathan, this simple act of kindness is more powerful than anything money could buy. As he watches her, something begins to stir inside him. He feels a connection, a warmth he hasn't felt in years. Emma's selflessness is unlike anything he's ever encountered, and he's drawn to her in a way he can't explain. Little does she know, Nathan is not just any man, he's the billionaire CEO who controls millions. But for now, he's just a man in need of a little kindness, and Emma, without realizing it, has given him more than he could ever have imagined. After their brief encounter at the luxury hotel, Emma went back to her usual life, feeling the weight of her responsibilities even more. She continued working long hours, balancing the stress of being a single mother with the constant worry of how to make ends meet. Despite the exhaustion, she found moments of peace when she saw her daughter smile, and those moments kept her going. What Emma didn't know was that Nathan Reed, the man she had met in the hotel room, couldn't stop thinking about her. He had been intrigued by her kindness and her unspoken strength, and as he sat in his high-rise office, surrounded by the wealth and power he had spent his life building, he realized he had never met anyone like her before. He watched her from afar, his curiosity growing stronger each day. He knew he couldn't just leave it at that one encounter. He had to know more about the woman who had treated him like a regular person, not a billionaire CEO in disguise. Nathan decided to find a way to get closer to her, but he didn't want to reveal his true identity just yet. He wanted to see if she would react to him the same way if she knew who he really was. So, he set a plan in motion to arrange another meeting, this time under the guise of someone who needed her help. He contacted the hotel and made arrangements for Emma to come to his office on a pretense. She was hesitant at first, but the money she was promised for her time was too tempting to turn down. She had bills to pay, a daughter to take care of, and the offer seemed like a chance to make things a little easier. When Emma arrived at Nathan's office, she was struck by the stark contrast between the building she had cleaned just days ago and the high-end corporate world Nathan inhabited. The sleek glass walls, the polished floors, the the luxury everywhere. It was all so different from her own life. She was escorted into his office, where she was greeted by a different side of him than the one she had met before. Nathan was no longer pretending to be disabled. He stood tall and confident, dressed in an expensive suit that spoke of his wealth and success. But despite the outward display of power, Emma could see something in his eyes that was familiar vulnerability. She didn't know why, but she couldn't help but feel drawn to him once again. Nathan explained that he had a small project he needed help with, something simple that didn't require much time. Emma, ever the professional, agreed to help, trying to keep her nerves in check as she worked in his office. She focused on the task at hand, but there was an undeniable tension between them, an unspoken connection that neither of them could ignore. As the meeting came to a close, Nathan found himself impressed by Emma's intelligence and work ethic. She was nothing like the other women in his life. She didn't care about his wealth or his status. She treated him like a human being, not a celebrity. It was refreshing, and it left him wanting more. Emma, on the other hand, couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan wasn't just a businessman. There was something about him that made her feel like there was more to the story. She had seen enough to know that he wasn't just some ordinary CEO. As she left his office, she couldn't help but wonder about the man behind the facade. Nathan couldn't stop thinking about Emma either. She had gotten under his skin in a way he hadn't expected. Her kindness, her ability to see beyond his wealth, it was a rare quality, one that he hadn't experienced in years. He knew he had to see her again, but he couldn't let her know who he truly was just yet. He needed to know if what he felt was real, or if it was just a momentary attraction. Nathan Reed was about to enter into a world of emotions he wasn't prepared for, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to let go of his carefully constructed walls. As days passed, Emma found herself thinking more and more about Nathan Reed. Her mind would often drift back to their meeting in his office, the way he had looked at her, with that strange mixture of vulnerability and authority. She had to admit, there was something about him that made her want to understand more. But Emma was a single mother with a job to do, and the realities of life left little room for distractions. Still, she couldn't ignore the way Nathan's presence had stirred something inside her, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. Despite the polished exterior and the wealth that surrounded him, there was an air of loneliness about Nathan that seemed familiar to her. For all his success, it was clear that something was missing in his life. That thought lingered with Emma as she went about her daily routine, tending to Lily, working at the diner, and struggling to keep everything together. Nathan, on the other hand, couldn't get Emma out of his mind. Every time he saw her, he was struck by her grace, her strength, and the way she treated him like a person, not just a billionaire. He had never met anyone like her before. Despite the carefully constructed walls around his heart, Nathan found himself drawn to her in ways he couldn't explain. But he wasn't ready to show her who he truly was. The deception he had started was weighing on him, and he knew it couldn't go on forever. It was only a matter of time before the truth came out. One evening, after a long day at work, Nathan decided he needed to see Emma again. He couldn't stop thinking about her, and he had to know if what he was feeling was real or just a fleeting moment. He decided to take a chance and meet her outside of his office, away from the walls of his corporate world. He arranged a casual meeting at a local park, hoping that in a more relaxed setting, he could finally get to know her better. Emma, though skeptical, agreed to meet him. She still couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan was hiding something, but she couldn't deny the connection they had. When they met at the park, Nathan was dressed casually for the first time since their last encounter. The suit was gone, replaced by jeans and a simple shirt, but the charm and confidence he exuded remained. Emma couldn't help but notice how different he looked without the imposing presence of his wealth and status. As they sat on a bench, talking about everything and nothing, Emma began to feel a sense of ease she hadn't expected. Nathan's guarded nature started to slip away, and for the first time, she saw the man behind the facade. They talked about their lives, her struggles as a single mother, his challenges of being constantly surrounded by people who wanted something from him. It was the first time Emma had felt like she was talking to a real person, not just a man with money and power. Nathan found himself opening up in ways he never had before. He talked about his childhood, how he had always felt out of place in his family's wealth, and how he had built his empire from the ground up. He wasn't used to sharing personal details with anyone, but something about Emma made him feel comfortable. As the evening wore on, the distance between them seemed to fade. They shared a quiet moment, just sitting together, the city lights flickering in the background. Nathan wanted to tell her everything, to reveal the truth about who he was and why he had been pretending to be someone he wasn't. But a part of him was afraid that once the truth came out, everything would change. Emma, too, felt something shift between them. The connection that had begun with simple kindness had blossomed into something deeper, something she wasn't ready to admit. She knew that Nathan was hiding something, but for now, it didn't matter. What mattered was the way he made her feel seen, understood, and appreciated. She couldn't remember the last time someone had made her feel that way. But as they said their goodbyes that evening, both of them knew that this was just the beginning of something far more complicated than either of them could have imagined. Nathan walked away, his heart pounding with the weight of the secret he still carried. Emma returned to her life, but her thoughts kept drifting back to him. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but one thing was certain. The story between them was far from over. As the days passed, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Nathan. The simple moments they had shared in the park felt like a breath of fresh air amidst the chaos of her everyday life. She was used to being invisible, just another face in the crowd, working long hours to survive. But with Nathan, there was a strange feeling of being seen, something she hadn't felt in years. Yet, despite the connection she felt, a nagging voice in the back of her mind reminded her that something wasn't right. Nathan still hadn't revealed his true identity, and that left her with questions that she wasn't sure she wanted the answers to. Was he just another rich man playing games, or was there more to him than met the eye? Nathan, on the other hand, couldn't shake the weight of the secret he was carrying. The more he spent time with Emma, the more he realized how different she was from everyone else in his life. She didn't care about his wealth or his status. She saw him, not as a billionaire, but as a person, and that terrified him. He knew he couldn't keep up the act forever, but each time he thought about telling her the truth, he hesitated. What if it changed everything? What if she walked away? It wasn't just about his money, it was about the vulnerability he was afraid to expose. But the more he tried to push his feelings aside, the harder it became. Emma was different. She wasn't like the others, and he couldn't get her out of his head. Then, one evening, as Emma was leaving her second job at the diner, she received a call from Nathan. It was the first time he had reached out to her since their meeting at the park. His voice on the other end of the line was warm but tinged with hesitation. He invited her to dinner at a restaurant he had chosen, a quiet spot where they could talk away from the distractions of the city. Emma was taken aback. A part of her wanted to say no, she had enough on her plate without adding any more complications. But another part of her, the part that had been yearning for something more than the monotony of her daily struggles, felt a pull she couldn't ignore. She agreed to meet him. When she arrived at the restaurant, Emma was surprised to find a table set for two in a secluded corner. Nathan was already there, his usual composed demeanor now softened by the intimacy of the setting. He smiled when he saw her, a smile that seemed genuine and inviting. The evening unfolded in a way neither of them had expected. They really talked about their lives, their dreams, and their fears. Emma shared her struggles as a mother, the pain of being abandoned by the man who had promised to love her, and the constant battle to keep her head above water. Nathan, in turn, opened up about his upbringing, how he had never felt like he truly belonged in his wealthy family, and how he had spent years building his empire to prove himself worthy. It was the first time they had shared their vulnerabilities with each other, and it created a bond that neither could deny. As the evening went on, Emma felt a shift in the air. There was something different about Nathan, something more real, more human. The man she had met in his office was not the same person sitting across from her now. Nathan, too, began to realize that the walls he had built around himself were slowly coming down. He found himself smiling without thinking, enjoying the simple pleasure of Emma's company. The way she laughed, the way she listened, it was as if she understood him in a way no one else ever had. But despite the connection between them, Nathan still hadn't told her the truth. He knew he couldn't keep pretending, but he was scared. Scared of losing her, scared of what would happen if she knew who he really was. As the night came to an end, Nathan walked Emma to her car. There was a moment of silence before he spoke again, his voice low and serious. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you. I've been keeping something from you, and I can't hide it any longer." Emma looked at him, her heart racing. She could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the words hanging between them. Nathan took a deep breath, but before he could continue, Emma placed a hand on his arm. "Nathan, I don't need to know everything. Not right now. I don't want you to feel like you have to explain yourself to me." Her words caught him off guard. Emma wasn't demanding answers. She wasn't pushing him to reveal the truth. She was simply offering him the freedom to be himself, no matter what that meant. Nathan looked at her, his heart swelling with a mixture of relief and admiration. Maybe he didn't have to be afraid after all. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for something real between them. After their quiet moment in the parking lot, Nathan walked away from Emma, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He had been close to revealing the truth to her, but the fear of how it would change everything held him back. As he lay awake that night in his luxurious penthouse, staring out at the city lights, he knew one thing for sure: he couldn't keep pretending forever. Emma had shown him a side of life he had long forgotten, a side where people weren't just interested in what he could offer them. She had seen him, not as a billionaire, but as a man. But he also knew that the longer he waited to tell her, the harder it would be. He had kept up the charade for so long that it had become his reality. The next day, Nathan decided to take the plunge. He needed to see Emma again, but this time, he wasn't going to hide behind any masks. He called her and asked if she could meet him at the same park where they had shared their first meaningful conversation. Emma agreed, though she was still unsure about Nathan. She was drawn to him, yes, but there was something that kept her from fully letting her guard down. What was he hiding? Why had he been so elusive about his true identity? When Emma arrived at the park, she saw Nathan waiting for her, standing by the fountain in the center. He looked different this time, less guarded, more vulnerable. As she walked toward him, he met her gaze and smiled, but there was an uncertainty in his eyes that made her pause. "Emma," he began, his voice softer than usual, "there's something I need to say to you. I've been pretending to be someone I'm not, and I can't keep doing it." Emma's heart raced, and she suddenly felt a knot in her stomach. She knew this moment was coming, but she wasn't prepared for it. Nathan took a deep breath and continued, "I'm not just some ordinary businessman. I'm the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. I've built my wealth and success from the ground up, but it's never been enough. I've spent my whole life proving myself to people, trying to fill a void that I didn't know how to fill." Emma listened in silence, her mind racing as she processed his words. She had suspected there was more to Nathan than met the eye, but hearing him confess it out loud was something else entirely. "I wanted to know if you would like me for who I really am," Nathan continued. "Not for what I can give you. I've been hiding behind this mask for so long, and I didn't want to risk losing you by showing you the truth." Emma took a step back, processing everything he had just said. She felt conflicted. She didn't know if she was more surprised by his confession or by the honesty in his voice. This was the man who had treated her like an equal, not as someone beneath him. But now, with the truth out in the open, she wasn't sure what to feel. She had been so used to the idea of Nathan being just another wealthy man, one who had everything but still seemed empty inside. But now, hearing his vulnerability, she saw him in a different light. "Nathan," she said, her voice calm yet firm, "I'm not sure what to say right now. This changes everything. But I do know one thing. I've never been with anyone who treated me like you do. That means something to me." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. He had expected anger, or perhaps disappointment, but Emma's response was different. She wasn't rejecting him. She was still trying to process everything, just as he was. The tension in the air was thick, but there was also an unspoken understanding between them. Nathan reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "I understand if you need time to think about this," he said, "but I want you to know that I'm willing to take things slow, to show you that I care for you, not because of what I have, but because of who you are." Emma felt a warmth in her chest, a spark of hope that she hadn't felt in a long time. She didn't have all the answers, but she was beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, Nathan was the real deal. "I need time," she said softly, "but I'm willing to see where this goes." Nathan smiled, relief washing over him. He had taken the leap, and while he didn't know what the future held, he was willing to face it with Emma by his side. As they stood there in the park, the world around them seemed to fade away. For the first time in a long while, Nathan felt truly alive, not as a CEO, but as a man who had found something worth fighting for. Emma, too, felt a shift in her heart. She wasn't sure where this journey would take them, but for the first time in a long time, she was ready to take that step forward. As days passed after their conversation in the park, Emma and Nathan continued to navigate the uncharted waters of their developing relationship. Emma had agreed to take things slow, and Nathan, relieved by her response, was more than willing to do so. He knew this wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of hope. Emma, too, found herself thinking about Nathan more and more. Despite her hesitation, there was something undeniably magnetic about him. He was different from any man she had ever met. His vulnerability and kindness had made a lasting impression on her, and as much as she wanted to keep her guard up, she couldn't ignore the connection they shared. However, life wasn't as simple as just following their hearts. Emma still had to juggle her demanding job, raising her daughter, and managing the constant financial pressures that weighed on her every day. Even when she was with Nathan, there were moments when the weight of her responsibilities made it hard to truly relax and enjoy their time together. Nathan, too, had his own challenges. Though he was a successful CEO, his life had been a constant whirlwind of business deals, meetings, and high expectations. His personal life had always taken a back seat to his career, and now, with Emma, he was beginning to realize just how empty that had made him feel. Despite his success, he had been lonely, constantly surrounded by people, but never truly connected to anyone. But now, with Emma, things were starting to change. One evening, Nathan invited Emma to an exclusive event his company was hosting, a gala for charity. Emma hesitated at first, unsure if she was ready to step into that world. It felt so foreign to her, so different from her everyday life. But Nathan reassured her, promising that it would be a low-pressure evening, just the two of them, enjoying the night. Reluctantly, Emma agreed to go, and as she prepared for the event, she found herself feeling nervous. She wasn't used to these kinds of social events. Glamorous parties filled with high-profile guests, expensive dresses, and the kind of wealth she had never been part of. When she arrived at the venue, she was immediately struck by the contrast between her own modest attire and the lavish surroundings. Nathan, however, greeted her with a warm smile, his presence calming her nerves. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice low and sincere. For a moment, Emma's insecurities melted away, and she allowed herself to relax. The night unfolded with a mix of awkward moments and quiet conversations between them. Nathan introduced her to some of his colleagues, but Emma felt out of place in the glittering world of power and privilege. Still, Nathan stayed by her side, making sure she was comfortable and engaged. As the evening went on, Emma found herself more and more drawn to Nathan's world. She realized that, while she might not belong in that circle, there was a side of Nathan's life that she could understand, the part of him that still craved genuine connection. As the night drew to a close, Nathan took her hand and led her outside, away from the glitzy crowd and the flashing cameras. "I know this world is a lot to take in," he said, his voice soft. "But I want you to know that I'm not just part of that world. I'm a person, just like you, and I want you to see that side of me too." Emma looked at him, her heart racing. She had always believed that people from different worlds couldn't truly connect, that their differences would always be too great to overcome. But Nathan was proving her wrong. He wasn't just a rich CEO, he was a man who was trying to build something real, something meaningful with her. "I'm starting to see that," she said quietly, her voice full of sincerity. Nathan smiled, his eyes lighting up. "Good, because I want to make this work, Emma. I want to be with you." For a moment, they stood there in silence, the city lights shimmering around them, the weight of their emotions hanging in the air. Emma didn't know what the future held, but she knew that Nathan had made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. And for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to embrace it. The days following the gala were a mix of excitement and uncertainty for both Nathan and Emma. Despite the spark between them, they still had a lot to figure out. Nathan had been upfront with her about his life, his status, and his desires for something real. Emma, though, was still processing everything. The contrast between their worlds was vast, and while the chemistry between them was undeniable, she wasn't sure how to bridge the gap between her humble existence and his lavish lifestyle. She couldn't shake the thought of how different they were. She was just a single mother working multiple jobs, and he was a billionaire CEO. Could they really make it work? Could they overcome the deep divides in their lives, both financially and emotionally? Nathan, on the other hand, was struggling with his own doubts. He had opened up to Emma in ways he hadn't with anyone else. He had bared his soul to her, but still, he was unsure if she truly understood the complexity of his life. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the loneliness, the pressure of constantly living up to everyone's expectations, and the fear of being loved for the wrong reasons. But every time he was with Emma, those doubts started to fade. There was something about her that made him want to keep trying, to show her that he wasn't just a wealthy man, but a man who cared deeply. One evening, after a long day at the office, Nathan decided he needed to clear the air. He called Emma and invited her to dinner at a small, intimate restaurant he knew she would appreciate. It was a casual place, not the glamorous spots he was used to, but he thought it would be a good way for them to connect outside of the business world. Emma hesitated at first. She had been busy with work and taking care of Lily, but something in Nathan's voice told her this was important. She agreed to meet him, though she still wasn't sure what to expect. When she arrived, Nathan was already waiting at a table by the window, the soft glow of the city lights reflecting off the glass. He stood up when he saw her, a smile spreading across his face. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice warm. Emma smiled, feeling a rush of warmth spread through her. They sat down, and the conversation flowed easily, just like it had the first time they had met. They talked about their lives, their dreams, and their struggles, finding comfort in each other's company. As the night went on, the weight of their differences seemed to disappear. They were no longer a wealthy man and a single mother. They were just two people, getting to know each other and trying to find a way forward. But as the evening came to a close, Nathan couldn't ignore the feeling that something was still holding them back. "Emma," he said, his voice serious, "there's something I've been meaning to say to you. I don't want to hide anything from you anymore. I know I've told you a lot about my life, but I feel like I need to explain more. I'm not just the CEO of a company. I've been living in this world of wealth and privilege for so long, and I felt disconnected from it all. But when I'm with you, it feels different. You make me feel like I'm more than just a title." Emma looked at him, her heart racing. "Nathan," she said softly, "I don't need you to be anything other than yourself. I don't care about your wealth. I care about the person you are. But I need to know that you're not just looking for someone to fill the emptiness in your life." Nathan nodded, his gaze intense. "I'm not. I know I've made mistakes, and I've been afraid to let people in. But you're different, Emma. You make me want to be a better person. I want to build something with you, something real. I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to try." For the first time in a long while, Emma felt a sense of hope wash over her. She had been so used to doing everything on her own, but with Nathan, she saw a possibility of something more. She didn't know where this would lead, but she knew she wanted to take the next step. "I'm willing to try too," she said, her voice steady. Nathan smiled, his eyes lighting up with relief. "Thank you, Emma," he whispered. "You don't know how much this means to me." As they stood up to leave, Nathan took her hand, a silent promise passing between them. They didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, they were both willing to take the leap and face the unknown together. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, they both felt like they were ready to face it, hand in hand. As the days passed, Emma and Nathan found themselves growing closer, but the complexities of their lives were far from simple. Emma was still adjusting to the reality of being with someone as influential and wealthy as Nathan, and every time they spent together, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the world outside their little bubble. She had her daughter to care for, bills that were piling up, and the unrelenting worry that she wasn't enough. Nathan, on the other hand, was trying to navigate the fear of being loved for the wrong reasons. He knew that Emma saw him for who he was, not just as a CEO, but the vulnerability and the kindness he had been hiding for so long. Yet, deep down, he feared that their worlds might still be too different, too far apart for them to truly be together. Despite these fears, Nathan decided to take a step forward. He invited Emma to spend the weekend with him at his private home in the countryside, hoping that the quiet serenity of the place would give them the space to truly connect. Emma hesitated. She had never been to such a place, and the idea of leaving her daughter behind for a couple of days felt wrong. But Nathan reassured her that everything would be fine, and that he simply wanted to spend quality time with her, without the distractions of the city. It was a gesture that meant something to her, and so, after much thought, she agreed. The weekend arrived, and Nathan drove Emma out to the countryside, where his estate stood surrounded by rolling hills and lush gardens. The beauty of the place took Emma's breath away, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she could breathe deeply, away from the constant pressures of her life. They spent the weekend walking through the gardens, talking about everything and nothing, and simply enjoying each other's company. Nathan shared more about his childhood, his struggles with his family, and the expectations that had been placed on him since he was a child. Emma opened up too, sharing her fears and dreams as a mother, the way she had always put others first, but never really had the chance to think about herself. For the first time, they were two people, not separated by wealth or status, but just connecting as individuals. But even in this peaceful setting, the tension between them remained. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan's world and hers were still too far apart, and she wasn't sure how long they could continue to pretend that everything was perfect. She didn't want to lose him, but the gap between their lives felt insurmountable. Nathan, on the other hand, could feel the distance between them as well. He could see the way Emma hesitated, the way she seemed to hold back, even when they were alone. He knew she was struggling with the idea of their relationship, and it was breaking his heart. He didn't want to lose her either, but he didn't know how to make her see that they could make it work, no matter the differences. On their last night at the estate, they sat on the terrace, watching the sunset. Nathan turned to Emma, his voice soft but filled with sincerity. "I know this isn't easy, Emma," he began, "and I know we come from different worlds, but I'm willing to make this work. I want to be with you, and I want to prove to you that I'm not just a man with money and power. I'm just a man who cares about you, who wants to be part of your life." Emma felt her heart race. She had always known Nathan was different from the others, but hearing him say those words hit her harder than she expected. For the first time, she truly realized how much she had come to care for him, how much she wanted to make it work despite all the uncertainties. But as much as she wanted to believe in their future together, there was still one thing that held her back. "I want to believe that too," she said quietly, "but I'm scared. I'm scared that our differences are too great, that I won't be able to give you the life you deserve, and that I'll end up holding you back." Nathan reached for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "Emma, I've spent my whole life chasing success, but none of it matters without you. I don't need a perfect life. I just need you." The sincerity in his voice melted away the last of Emma's doubts. She realized, in that moment, that she had been holding on to her fears for too long. Maybe it wasn't about the wealth, the status, or the differences between them. Maybe it was about the connection they shared, the willingness to take risks and fight for something real. "Okay," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Let's take the leap." Nathan smiled, relief and happiness flooding through him. For the first time in a long while, everything felt right. They didn't have all the answers, but they were ready to face the future together, no matter what it held. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they shared a quiet moment, the weight of the world lifting off their shoulders, knowing that their journey was just beginning. The days following their quiet moment in the countryside were filled with new possibilities for Emma and Nathan. They had crossed a threshold, and for the first time in a long while, they felt like they were on the same page. The weight of their differences was still there, but it no longer seemed as insurmountable. They were both willing to try, and that was all that mattered. Nathan couldn't stop thinking about the promise Emma had made. "Let's take the leap." It wasn't just the words that resonated with him, but the way she had said them. There was a quiet strength in her voice that made him believe that together they could make this work. As the days passed, they spent more time together, each moment feeling like a small victory. Nathan made an effort to show Emma that he was more than just his wealth. He spent evenings cooking dinner for her, taking her on long walks through the city, and introducing her to the parts of his life that weren't defined by business meetings and lavish events. For Emma, it was a revelation. She had never imagined that someone like Nathan could be so down to earth. He wasn't just a billionaire CEO. He was a man who genuinely cared for her, who wanted to be there for her in ways that went beyond his wealth. Still, doubts lingered in Emma's mind. She had always been independent, always carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. The idea of relying on someone else, especially someone like Nathan, was foreign to her. Could she truly let go of her fears and trust him? Could she allow herself to love him without worrying about the future? One evening, as they sat on the balcony of his apartment, watching the city lights flicker below, Nathan turned to Emma, sensing the quiet uncertainty in her. "Emma, I know this isn't easy for you," he said softly, his voice sincere. "I know you've been through a lot, and it's hard to let someone in when you've spent your whole life doing everything on your own, but I want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you, for whatever you need, whenever you need it. You don't have to do this alone." Emma looked at him, her heart swelling with emotions she had long buried. She had always been afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of opening herself up to someone else, but Nathan made her want to try. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to carry the world on her shoulders. She could lean on him, if only for a moment. "I'm scared," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm scared of what this might mean, of what might happen if I let myself fall for you, but at the same time, I don't want to walk away from this. I don't want to walk away from you." Nathan reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "You don't have to be scared," he said, his eyes filled with warmth. "We don't have to have it all figured out right now. What matters is that we're here, together, and we're willing to try. We'll take it one day at a time." Emma nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to feel something beyond fear, hope. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. Over the next few weeks, Nathan and Emma continued to build their relationship, navigating the complexities of their different worlds. There were moments of doubt, moments when the weight of their differences felt too much to bear. But each time, they came back to the one thing they shared, their commitment to making this work. Emma found herself opening up more, allowing herself to trust Nathan in ways she hadn't trusted anyone before. Nathan, too, found himself letting go of the walls he had built around his heart. The more time they spent together, the more he realized that he didn't need the world's approval, that the only thing that mattered was the connection they shared. One evening, as they walked through the park near Nathan's apartment, Emma took a deep breath and turned to him. "Nathan, I'm ready to try," she said, her voice steady. "I'm ready to see where this goes." Nathan stopped in his tracks, looking at her with a mixture of relief and joy. He reached for her hand, pulling her close. "You don't know how much that means to me," he whispered, kissing her forehead. They stood there for a moment, wrapped in each other's arms, the world around them fading into the background. For the first time in a long time, both Nathan and Emma felt like they were exactly where they were meant to be. As weeks passed, the relationship between Emma and Nathan grew stronger, though both of them knew that there were still challenges ahead. They had decided to take things one day at a time, understanding that building a life together would require effort, patience, and a willingness to embrace their differences. For Emma, the feeling of being with Nathan was like nothing she had ever experienced. She had grown accustomed to struggling, to living in survival mode, always putting others first and never letting herself dream too much. But with Nathan, she was beginning to see that there could be more to life, more than just getting by, more than just keeping her head above water. Nathan, too, found himself falling for Emma in ways he hadn't anticipated. Her strength, her heart, and the way she loved her daughter were things he admired deeply. As a man who had built his empire from the ground up, Nathan knew the importance of hard work, but he also understood the value of love and genuine connection. Emma had shown him a world beyond the boardroom, beyond the wealth and success that had defined him for so long. But even as their bond deepened, there were still moments of doubt and hesitation. Emma couldn't help but wonder if she was ready to fully let go of her fears and trust Nathan with her heart. She had spent so many years protecting herself, keeping her emotions at arm's length, that allowing someone in felt like a risk she wasn't sure she was ready to take. She loved Nathan, there was no doubt about that, but she was afraid of losing herself in the process. Nathan, too, was afraid. Despite everything they had shared, he still worried that their worlds would eventually pull them apart. He couldn't shake the feeling that their differences were too vast, that his life of wealth and privilege would one day be a source of division between them. But every time he looked at Emma, every time they spent time together, those fears seemed to melt away. He knew that he didn't need anything else in his life but her. One day, as they walked through the park near Nathan's apartment, Emma turned to him, her expression serious. "Nathan," she said softly, "there's something I need to tell you." Nathan looked at her, his heart skipping a beat. He had learned by now that when Emma spoke with such quiet intensity, it was important. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice steady. Emma hesitated for a moment before speaking, her words coming slowly. "I'm scared," she admitted, her eyes searching his. "I'm scared of what this could mean, of what could happen if we keep moving forward. I've never let myself rely on anyone, and now I'm finding it hard to know what to do." Nathan reached for her hand, his touch gentle but firm. "I understand," he said quietly. "I know it's not easy, but I want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you, no matter what." Emma looked at him, the warmth in his gaze reassuring her, even as her heart struggled with uncertainty. She had spent so many years on her own, relying on herself and herself alone. The idea of giving that up, of trusting someone else completely, was terrifying. But there was a part of her that knew Nathan was different. He wasn't just asking her to trust him with her love, he was asking her to trust him with her future, the future they could build together. "I'm not asking for you to change everything about your life," Nathan continued, his voice soft. "I just want to be part of it. I want to be someone who stands by you, who supports you, who helps you carry the weight. You don't have to do it alone anymore, Emma." The sincerity in his voice moved her more than she expected. She had always believed that in order to survive, she had to do everything herself. But Nathan was showing her that there was strength in allowing others to be there for you. She could see it now, the possibility of a life where she didn't have to face every challenge on her own. For the first time, Emma felt the weight of her fears beginning to lift. She still had doubts, still had questions, but with Nathan by her side, she was beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. "Okay," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Let's try. Let's take this step together." Nathan smiled, his heart swelling with happiness. He had known that this moment was coming, but hearing Emma say those words made everything feel real. They weren't just talking about a future together, they were starting to build it. Hand in hand, they walked forward, both knowing that there would still be obstacles to overcome. But with each step, they were building something stronger than either of them had ever imagined, a life built on trust, love, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. As Emma and Nathan continued to build their relationship, the next few weeks were filled with moments of quiet joy, but also new challenges that tested their bond. They had agreed to take things slow, but sometimes life had its own way of pushing them forward faster than they were ready for. Emma had started to notice how deeply Nathan's presence affected her. When they were together, everything felt easier, lighter, but when they were apart, the realities of her life would creep in. She was still a single mother, juggling work, her daughter's needs, and the constant worry of making ends meet. Nathan had been understanding of her situation, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there would come a time when her struggles would become too much for him to handle. One evening, after a long day of work, Emma arrived at Nathan's apartment, feeling especially worn out. Her mind was a blur of thoughts, the overwhelming list of things she had to do weighing her down. Nathan noticed her fatigue the moment she stepped inside. "You okay?" he asked gently, his eyes full of concern. Emma smiled, trying to mask the exhaustion she was feeling. "I'm fine, just a long day. You know how it is." Nathan could see through her act, but he didn't press her. Instead, he made her a cup of tea and sat with her, the two of them silently enjoying the rare quiet moment. As they sat together, Emma felt the weight of her fears rise within her. She had always been the one in control, the one who took care of everything. But lately, she felt like she was starting to rely on Nathan more, and that made her uncomfortable. She didn't want to burden him with her problems, didn't want to feel like she was asking for too much. Nathan, sensing her inner turmoil, spoke up. "Emma, I know you're trying to carry everything on your own, but you don't have to. I'm here for you. I want to be here for you." His words touched something deep inside her, but the walls she had built over the years were hard to break down. "I don't want to be a burden," she admitted quietly, her voice trembling slightly. "I've always taken care of everything myself, and I don't know how to let that go." Nathan took her hand in his grip warm and steady. "You don't have to let go of everything. You just have to let me in. We're partners, Emma. Whatever you're going through, we face it together." Emma looked at him, her heart full of emotions she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. It was hard for her to accept help, especially from someone she had grown so close to. But in that moment, she realized that Nathan wasn't just offering her help, he was offering her the chance to share her burdens, to not have to carry them alone anymore. She nodded slowly, her heart easing just a little. "I'm not used to this," she whispered, "but I want to try." Nathan smiled softly, his eyes full of warmth. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said. "No pressure, just us. Whatever you need, I'm here." Over the next few weeks, Emma allowed herself to lean on Nathan more, trusting him with the parts of her life she had kept hidden for so long. They spent their evenings together, cooking meals, talking about their hopes and dreams, and slowly learning to understand each other's worlds. Nathan, too, found himself growing more attached to Emma with each passing day. The more he learned about her, the more he admired her strength and resilience. He knew that the path ahead wouldn't always be easy, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had someone to share the journey with. As their bond deepened, there was a moment when Emma realized that, for the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was living, and Nathan was a big part of that. One evening, As they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Nathan turned to her, his expression serious. "Emma," he began, "I've been thinking a lot about us. I want you to know that I'm all in. No matter what happens, I'm committed to making this work." Emma looked at him, a mixture of surprise and warmth flooding her chest. "I feel the same way," she replied softly. "I've been scared, but I'm starting to believe that maybe we really can make it work. Together." Nathan's heart soared as he took her hand, feeling the connection between them stronger than ever. He knew that they still had a long way to go, but for the first time, he felt like they were on the same path. They were no longer two people from different worlds, they were partners, learning to navigate life together, one step at a time. As they stood together, looking out over the city, Emma realized that while the future was uncertain, she was no longer afraid. She had Nathan by her side, and that made all the difference. As time passed, Emma and Nathan's relationship continued to evolve, becoming more comfortable and stronger with each passing day. They had come so far, from two people who barely knew each other to partners who were learning to build a life together. But despite the progress they had made, Emma couldn't help but feel the underlying tension that lingered. The fear of not being good enough still gnawed at her, and the deep-seated worry that her life was too complicated for someone like Nathan was hard to shake. She loved him, but she also knew that the life she had built, her struggles, her responsibilities, and her daughter was not something she could just leave behind. She had tried to keep her fears in check, but they were becoming harder to ignore. Nathan, on the other hand, had started to see just how much Emma was holding inside. He could tell when something was bothering her, though she tried to mask it with a smile or a change of subject. He knew that she was struggling with the idea of relying on him, of allowing herself to trust that he wouldn't walk away when things got difficult. But Nathan wasn't like the men she had known before. He had seen her at her best and her worst, and he still wanted to be there for her, to help her carry the weight of her life. He knew it wasn't going to be easy, but he was determined to prove to Emma that they could face the challenges ahead together. One evening, as they sat in Nathan's apartment after a long day, Emma couldn't hold back any longer. "Nathan," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I need to talk to you about something." Nathan looked at her, his brow furrowing with concern. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice calm and reassuring. Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "I've been thinking about us," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "About everything we've been through, about what we both want, and I don't know if I'm enough for you. I don't know if my life, my past, my baggage is something you're really ready for." Nathan's heart ached at her words, but he stayed quiet, letting her speak her truth. Emma continued, her eyes filled with doubt. "I love you, Nathan, but I'm scared. Scared that I'm going to drag you into a life that's too complicated for you. I can't offer you the kind of life you're used to. I can't give you the perfect, easy future that I know you deserve." Nathan reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Emma," he said softly, "you're everything I need. It's never been about the life I've built or the world I come from. It's about you, about us. I don't care about what you think you don't have to offer. You're already giving me more than I could have ever asked for your heart, your trust, your love. That's all that matters to me." Emma shook her head, tears starting to fill her eyes. "But I'm so scared, Nathan. I've spent my whole life trying to do everything on my own, and now I'm supposed to let someone else in. Let someone help me? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to let go of my fear." Nathan gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing away the tear that had escaped down her cheek. "You don't have to let go of your fear all at once, Emma. It's okay to be scared. I'm scared too, but we can be scared together. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." His words were like a lifeline, and for the first time in a long while, Emma allowed herself to truly believe in what they had. She realized that she didn't have to have everything figured out. She didn't have to be perfect. She just had to be herself, and Nathan loved her for exactly who she was. Slowly, the walls Emma had built around her heart began to crack. She didn't have to carry everything alone anymore, and that thought brought a sense of peace she had never known. "I want to try, Nathan," she said, her voice full of emotion. "I want to trust you. I want to let you in. I don't know where this will go, but I'm willing to take that leap with you." Nathan smiled, his eyes filled with tenderness. "That's all I need to hear." They sat there in silence for a moment, the weight of their fears still present, but lighter now, as if the air between them had shifted. Nathan knew there would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to face, but in that moment, with Emma by his side, he knew they could face anything. Together, Emma, too, felt a sense of hope bloom in her chest. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to walk into it with Nathan. She didn't have all the answers, but with him by her side, she knew they could figure it out, one step at a time. As the months passed, Emma and Nathan's relationship grew stronger, deeper, and more resilient. They had faced their fair share of challenges, but with each hurdle, their connection only deepened. Emma had learned to lean on Nathan, to trust him in ways she had never trusted anyone before, and Nathan had proven time and time again that he was there for her, not because of her struggles, but because of who she was. Their love had become a partnership, one that was built on mutual respect, understanding, and the willingness to face life's uncertainties together. Emma had also started to open up more about her past, her fears, her dreams, the things that had shaped her into the woman she was today. Nathan listened with an open heart, never judging, always supporting. He had his own past, his own scars, but with Emma, he didn't feel the need to hide them anymore. She accepted him, flaws and all, and that acceptance had changed him in ways he couldn't have imagined. They had found a rhythm in their relationship, balancing their different worlds, supporting each other, and most importantly, growing together. Emma's daughter, Lily, had slowly started to get to know Nathan as well, and while it wasn't always easy, Emma could see the way Lily looked at Nathan. There was no pressure from Nathan, no rush for things to move faster than they were ready for. He understood that trust had to be earned, and he was patient, always letting Lily come to him at her own pace. One weekend, Nathan invited Emma to a small event, a family gathering, something simple yet significant. It was the first time he had invited her into his world so fully. Emma was nervous, unsure of what to expect. She had been to the glamorous galas and charity events before, but this was different. This was Nathan's family, his closest friends. As they arrived at the event, Emma was immediately struck by the warmth and familiarity that surrounded her. Nathan's family welcomed her with open arms, and for the first time, Emma felt like she wasn't just an outsider looking in. She was part of something real, something she hadn't allowed herself to experience before. Nathan stood by her side the entire time, making sure she felt comfortable, introducing her to everyone, and easing her nervousness. As the evening progressed, Emma found herself laughing, talking, and connecting with people she would have never expected to bond with. She was surprised by how natural it felt, how comfortable she felt in Nathan's world, and how much she was beginning to embrace this new chapter of her life. Later that evening, as they stood by the garden overlooking the city lights, Nathan turned to Emma, a soft smile on his face. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said. "It means more to me than you know." Emma looked at him, her heart full of emotions she had long kept buried. "I'm glad I came too," she replied, her voice steady. "It's strange," she continued, "but for the first time, I feel like I belong. Not just here, with you, but in this life." Nathan gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing over her cheek. "You belong, Emma. You've always belonged." Emma's eyes filled with tears, the weight of everything they had been through, the fears, the doubts, the challenges finally lifting off her shoulders. She had found something real with Nathan, something that was built on trust, patience, and love. It was a love that didn't require perfection, only the willingness to be vulnerable, to show up, and to be there for each other. "I love you, Nathan," she whispered, her voice full of sincerity. Nathan's smile widened, and for a moment, the entire world seemed to fade away. "I love you too, Emma," he replied, his voice filled with emotion. As they stood there, their hands intertwined, Emma realized that their journey was just beginning. There would be more challenges, more hurdles, but with Nathan by her side, she felt ready for whatever came next. She wasn't alone anymore. Together, they had built something beautiful, something worth fighting for. And no matter what the future held, Emma knew one thing for certain: she had found the love she had always deserved, and that was enough. In this captivating love story, we delve into the heartwarming journey of a woman who learns to trust a wealthy man after years of self-reliance, exploring themes of vulnerability, growth, and overcoming the fears that come with a relationship between two people from very different worlds. As they navigate their way through misunderstandings and insecurities, this narrative unfolds into a beautiful tale of two souls finding strength in each other. Their connection is tested by life's challenges, but through patience, understanding, and love, they build a partnership that transcends their differences. This is one of the most touching millionaire stories, where true love isn't about wealth, but about trusting each other in the face of fear and uncertainty. The characters face their individual struggles, Emma's struggle with independence, and Nathan's fear of being loved for the wrong reasons, but together, they learn that love is about more than just sharing moments. It's about facing life's hurdles together, no matter how great they may seem. With their hearts fully open to one another, they overcome the weight of their pasts and find peace in each other's arms, proving that millionaire stories are not just about money, but about the emotional wealth they find in each other. This millionaire story unfolds with deep emotional connections, and while their pasts might seem like obstacles, their willingness to open up to one another makes this a truly inspiring journey. As they both face challenges, their love story becomes one of resilience, proving that even in the world of millionaires, the most valuable thing you can have is someone to trust and share your life with. This tale is not only about wealth in the traditional sense, but about the richness of the bond they create, highlighting why this millionaire story is one that will stay in your heart long after the story ends.